And Ali Vitale, I know you were there yesterday, listening to these women and then hearing the response from President Trump. We heard the one woman with Lawrence last night reacting to President Trump's response and say, I voted for the man and I'm disgusted by what he said, that this was a hoax and that it's somehow Democrat-led. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene was out there leading the charge, so it's obviously not led by Democrats. But I'll tell you, the bedfellows that this story has made and the people it has disgusted when you have Ro Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene working together on this kind of tells you everything.
It tells you that politics should be out of this, and yet it's so inextricably intertwined with it because of the way that the president pushed for transparency on this on the campaign trail, along with other Republicans, including Congresswoman Greene, who is now saying that she has to make good on those promises, and that's why, part of why she's signing on to this effort, getting crosswise with the White House. But just to pick up on the hoax line of it, Bradley Edwards, actually, the Epstein lawyer who was there, he's in the background of many of these pictures, said that it's stunning to him that Trump would now call this a hoax because Trump, back in 2009 and earlier, was actually someone who apparently helped Edwards during some of these attempts that they were making to do various legal avenues of seeking justice on this. It's not because they thought that Trump had any wrongdoing. He was actually described as being helpful towards this effort. And so the about face that he's making now, calling this a Democratic hoax, is pretty inexplicable to many of the survivors and lawyers who have been a part of this for many, many, many years now. And I think that's what was really hammered home yesterday as I was there at this press conference, is the ways that these women have tried and lost opportunities for justice in the past. And as much as that has been painful for them, they still have this hope for transparency now, speaking directly at some points during that press conference to the president, at other points speaking to members of Congress, saying, we just want transparency here. In some cases, they hope that transparency brings them clarity on what actually happened to them as they were being trafficked. And so what we're watching right now are two parallel tracks, two parallel vehicles for how that transparency could happen through Capitol Hill. Remember that the president still has the power to just say, let's be transparent about all of this and ask DOJ to release the files in full. Of course, that's not likely to happen, which is why we're tracking what's happening on the Hill. Specifically with the discharge petition, we're waiting to see if they get the 218 signatures that they need. But if you listen to the speaker, he is continuously denouncing that effort. And here's why in his words. Watch.
They're already producing and putting out there the documents that are uncovered. The White House is in full compliance. The administration is willfully complying with the subpoenas because they want maximum transparency as well. I talked to the president himself last night about this. He says, get it out there, put it all out there. So this is going to be an ongoing effort. It will be bipartisan, which is great. And the Oversight Committee's effort, this is really important to point out, goes further than the discharge petition.
That's debatable at this point, Joe and Mika, especially because the survivors yesterday said that they have no concerns about the way that the discharge petition, the bill underlying it, is written in terms of privacy concerns. They don't have those. And so Republican members are now having to grapple with that. And then, of course, the Oversight Committee's work is still happening, but it's kind of an open question on how transparent that effort would be. Yeah, and, you know, the speaker said the president wants it all out there. It's just not true. He's saying it's not even real. He's saying it's a Democratic hoax. Before he was blaming it on previous administrations. He was blaming it on Obama. It all happened during his administration. He's blaming it on Biden. It all happened during his first administration. And so you look at all of this, and again, the irony that this movement that would find rando Hollywood stars and just call them pedophiles because they voted for Democrats. And they would find random public figures, and, you know, they've spent 20 years calling these people pedophiles. And now you've got a group of people in that same movement trying to whitewash probably the greatest pedophile of the 21st century, the 20th and the 21st century, second half, as far as you know, a public figure moving among the rich and the powerful, among royalty, and now they're saying, oh, everything's out there, or this is a hoax. It again, how rich?
This is the story I believe Donald Trump is most afraid of. Look, this is a big, various, diverse country with lots of different opinions. I think the one thing we could all maybe agree on is that young girls should not be raped and trafficked by the wealthiest, most powerful men. Like, we could start there as just like a baseline of common sense. And this is revealing the fact that he won't simply release these files, bring transparency, honor these survivors. It reveals his entire project to be a con to his base, right? He ran on, I may disagree with him, but he ran on saying, look, there's a group of wealthy, powerful people who are sort of colluding. They're all in on it. Democrats, Republicans, they're all in on this thing. And I am outside of this system. I don't care. I say what I think, and I'm going to expose the system. I'm going to drain the swamp. And now, in what is the ultimate, as you said, the ultimate, almost caricature example of the wealthy and powerful colluding and doing harm, he has revealed that he is not a serious person. He's not serious about his project, and he's revealing that his supporters are sort of chow for his own enrichment, the enrichment of his friends. He doesn't care about them. He doesn't respect them, and he doesn't think they're smart enough to see through this. And I think actually they are smart enough to see through it.
Well, if they are, Willie, what I don't understand is, again, think back to Pizzagate, where again, this movement started a lie that Hillary Clinton was part of a pedophile ring. And a guy comes down and he shoots up a pizza joint, and then it's like, oh my God, it was all a lie. Think about, they even over the past several years, they had movies celebrating guys that would go down and, bust up pedophile rings who, after they did some research, found out weren't the best guys in the world. But it was like this singular obsession, right? They would call out Hollywood stars like Tom Hanks. They would call out Oprah. They would call out these wild, and the conspiracy theories about pedophilia. Now they have it right in front of their face. And they're like, we're not interested anymore. Let's move on. This is a Democratic hoax. And these podcasters that were like, release Epstein files, release Epstein files. And, they've all been released. We're good. I mean, it's crazy. By the way, that voice, I'm not exactly sure which podcaster that was, but...
Not a popular one.
Not popular. Yeah, I have 12 listeners.
You're right. There have been a lot of imaginary pedophiles in the minds of conspiratorial people over the last generation or so, and now we have a very, very real one and very, very real survivors that we heard from yesterday. And for some reason, Donald Trump now doesn't seem interested in pursuing that story. Jim Vandehei, and the question remains, what does this mean to his relationship with his base, which has moved with him wherever he has led them on just about everything? But on this issue in particular, they've said, no, we know this is real. We know something terrible happened to these women. We know this was a conspiracy of a terrible man and people rich and powerful with him. And we know something stinks here, and you're not doing anything about it, Mr. President. So what does that mean politically?
I mean, it certainly means that they disagree with him on this wholeheartedly. I don't know that they're not going to break with him beyond that. There's no evidence that the base is turning on Trump. They seem to be with him no matter what he says or does. The fact that the president has said he's not going to release this, he thinks it's a hoax, the fact that he has a speaker having his back means you're probably not going to get the documents that you want to see. They just laid out, those women, those courageous women sitting before the microphone, laid out exactly how you're going to figure out who did what. If they put together that confidential list and somebody like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene reads it on the House floor, that's probably the transparency that you're going to get. And they've now clearly put a roadmap to do it. Otherwise, they're going to hide it. They're going to fight. There are legitimate things with redactions and what can be released and not released. But if they decide they want to put the names to it, and I think a lot of us know who probably some of the names are that are on that list, and she goes public with it and is willing to have that fight on their behalf, then at least you get the public shaming dimension of justice. There'll be statute of limitations and all the other things that cover the actual justice of it, but it sure as hell seems like it's time for that.
I totally agree with you, Jim. I think that, this petition right now has 4 Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. And I think the most dangerous thing for Republicans on this is these survivors, these women who who have been abused repeatedly over the course of years and then invalidated about that abuse, that's akin to having nothing left to lose. And that's dangerous. And these Republicans have a lot coming their way if they think they're going to be quiet. They're done. You can hear it. You can see it. And it's something that perhaps some Republicans who are standing in the way of this may want to consider. Jim's right. Those names are going to come out one way or another.
And usually, often in these cases, a group like that is kept separate. Mm-hmm. One person's over here, but they don't necessarily know the other's names, right? And what was so powerful about that visual and those testimonies is they have found solidarity with each other, right? And now, in connection with each other, giving each other strength, giving each other courage, but also just pulling information that was sitting in different places, they're going to have a level of force that's undeniable.